Hey, this is Anney
and Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, a production of iHeartRadio. And welcome to another edition of Monday Mini. For this one, I would suggest checking out our recent Monday Mini on compulsory heterosexuality, or comphet, because this is kind of a companion piece to that episode. We're not going to get too in-depth about it, but we're just going to mention things like sexual assault and depression, things like that. But today we are talking about internalized homophobia, which is related. I did mention it in that comphet episode. And this is one of those things where I imagine most listeners know what internalized homophobia is, but I figured I would do a quick rundown on it since I'm seeing a lot about it online right now. And sometimes folks are mixing it up with comphet and or heteronormativity. They're all related, but they are different from each other. We also kind of saw this in action at our end of the year Sminty meeting, where somebody brought up compulsory heterosexuality without us mentioning it. And it became a topic of conversation. I was like, yes, we just did an episode on it.
There's a few times in life where we're like, yeah, we just did an episode on that. Actually, a lot of times.
Sometimes, you know, maybe we're not trendy in terms of wearing suede, but sometimes I feel like we are ahead of the curve in what becomes a conversation topic. Yeah. But yes, right now that is a big topic of conversation. So I wanted to come back and just clarify some things about internalized homophobia, which very basically, it's what it sounds like. Similar to internalized misogyny, it is an involuntary internalized feeling that homosexuality is wrong, bad, immoral. It's sometimes called internalized oppression. It is the internal belief that heterosexuality is the norm and the correct way to be, and something that we internalize due to a bunch of different societal factors, systemic factors like religion or education systems, medical systems, politics, media, in our family and friends, everywhere you can get it. There's also internalized transphobia specifically, which revolves around internalized negative perceptions and fears around the trans experience. Same with internalized biphobia. We're going to talk about this more in a second, but as I've said before, there is still within the queer community, queer infighting, and still can be judgments of like a bisexual person from a queer person. So that does still happen. Related term, internalized heterosexism, is when a queer person internally believes that heterosexuality is superior. So maybe I'm just going to make this mini series and break down all of these terms because there are a lot of them. Okay, so for gay people, internalized homophobia can manifest in self-hatred, stigmatization, or disgust, or even repressing their sexuality, or self-harming behaviors and suicidality. Research shows that especially for younger folks realizing their sexuality, it may take them years to confide in someone about it. I believe the study I was looking at, it was 5 years after they realized. And I've talked about it before, but just to mention, I did this too in my experience of trying to pray the gay away, where I would literally pray, please, I do not want to be gay, because I knew it was going to make my life more difficult and potentially dangerous. And we did talk about that in the comphet episode as well, that we internalized that being gay is dangerous and unsafe as children. It starts at a very young age. And there's science behind that too. I'm not just saying that. And it can cause a bunch of other issues for gay folks too, like jealousy of friends' straight relationships. Like you're jealous that they get to just have this relationship. But you know, like it's not as simple perhaps in some cases for gay people. Contempt for other gay people. And so this is what I was sort of mentioning before. It can be something relatively minor, as in kind of using gay as like, that's an insult. But it can be something absolutely heinous. And that can lead to the trope of a conservative religious leader or a politician Secretly being gay, it's usually a man who often grooms and sexually abuses children of the same sex. Now, obviously, that is a different episode, and there's a lot more nuances in there, but that's that can be an example of how horrible it can get. Trying to change your sexuality, denial that things like homophobia is a real problem, and or engaging in outright homophobic behaviors to fit in, feeling inadequate, over or underachieving, low self-esteem and poor body image, attempts at passing as straight, and even getting married to pass as straight, remaining in toxic or abusive relationships, shame, fear, defensiveness, depression, withdrawal, bitterness, continual self-monitoring, which is exhausting when you're always thinking about how people are perceiving you and not wanting them to know that you are gay, risky sexual practices, substance abuse, and reluctance to show affection, which again, because you think people misinterpret it. This also, we're not going to go into this today, but I did just read an article about this that I thought was related, but it's when you are out and straight friends kind of use you to validate that they're attractive. They're like, oh, do you think I'm attractive, right? So even gay people think I'm attractive, which has happened to me. And I hadn't really realized it until I read that article.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. And it sucks because then you're just kind of what are you? You're validating them.
Right.
But anyway, I did find a very recent 2025 study called Sexual Orientation and Internalized Homophobia of Middle-Aged and Older Gay and Lesbian Adults, the Role of Social Relationships. And it found that self-identified gay men had higher levels of internalized homophobia as compared to self-identified lesbians amongst those that they surveyed. I'm not sure if this is true of the younger generation, but with toxic masculinity and all that, it doesn't surprise me at all. And a lot of it did, because they were trying to get to the bottom of the reason for it, and a lot of it did have to do with the level of support and friendships. And we've talked about that. Women usually have more support and friendships than men do, often because of this toxic masculinity and just our general misogyny and sexism in society. But yes, I thought that was interesting. And so one of the reasons that I wanted to talk about this, and I want to be clear to articulate this correctly, is that, okay, it's going to sound like a silly story, but just stay with me for a second. I was talking to a good friend of mine about shipping, and I was saying I generally never, ever believe my usually gay ships are going to happen. I just don't think that's the case. So I always know, like, this is something that I like that will never actually come to life on screen or whatever media it is. And I was talking specifically about The Mandalorian and Luke Skywalker, who I love to ship together, but I never actually thought they were going to get together. They literally have, I think, 2 minutes of screen time together. But some people really did. They really did, and were devastated when it kind of became clear it wasn't going to happen. And I just said, without really thinking about it, I said, well, obviously the male writers really connect to this strong male hero. They associate themselves with him. They're never, ever going to make him gay, because that would imply that maybe they are gay. And it was a strange thing that I just said it without, I want to be clear, this is me projecting. I have no evidence behind this. I have no statement that I read or thing that I saw. This was just something that I believed deeply. And even if they are allies, they still don't want to be gay. There was something in me that just believed it. And so I really had to sit with that and think, why? What? Because I just said it. I didn't have any evidence of it. And it's not like I don't believe that's happened or people don't believe that, but I didn't have any evidence of it. And so I really had to do some self-examination after that. I was like, wait, why did you say that so authoritatively? I don't really know anything about them, to be honest.
I guess in my head, it makes sense not because of your thought of like gay is bad, but because typically what we see in toxic masculinity, anything into that realm would imply that they have gayish thoughts. And for toxic masculinity, that is a no-no. So because we are living in a state where that is more prevalent, that it makes sense that it was more of a scolding of them more so than your thought. That's how I would have taken that, because I'm like, yeah, of course they would never, because they don't have the understanding that this is a thing that could be, and it should be natural in that it could be this instead, but like because men are so afraid of anything looking less manly that they would absolutely be like, that's not the way they would think, or type of thing in that conversation. So that's interesting.
No, and that's where I'm kind of like, I think it's both that, but also that I was just so ready to, without any evidence, without anything. But I also had this thought of they would be embarrassed. Yeah. They would be embarrassed that so many people are thinking this character might be gay because it's themselves it's an idealized version of themselves.
But then I'm thinking, like, if Pedro Pascal
exactly
had this out, he'd be like, cool. Like, to me, I would give him the benefit of the doubt of being like, no, but he'd be okay with it because he has evolved and understood this is not an insult. This is not a thing, and like in any perception to him, it just is a natural way of being, and people ship this. Okay. And he'd be like, I'm down. This is where we're going. This is where we're going.
He has been open about it. I think he's a Cobb Vanth, which is Timothy Oliphant's character.
Oh,
and the Mandalorian shipper.
Yeah, that makes sense. But like that's the thing. Like, it feels like in his understanding of like, this is not. Why are you so insulted? Why is this such a bad thing? And he understands that's not a bad thing. This is not. But the compulsory heterosexuality would make it seem like that's not the norm, which I've seen after our conversation. A lot of social media has come up because there was a post where a girl supposedly rejected a woman because she was straight, and then she got hate from everybody and doxxed for it. And then the people, instead of being like, oh, it's bad to be doxxed, it's that bad, like for people to be not okay with rejection, like that is a normal response. Instead, everybody's like, yeah, she should be offended. It's not normal. Being straight is normal. What is wrong with y'all? Why are y'all defending? Like, it was the amount of comments that said straight is normal, which was the first time I've ever seen that. I was like, what is happening? Are these bots? Is this the new tactic that I have missed since this conversation? Or like, it was a weird defensiveness that I was like, what? Well, that's not even part of the conversation. I don't get what's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, we're going to have to come. We said it before, but I do think something's going on with bots right now.
Something is going on with the amount of bots that I've seen in that type of conversation, that I was like, what is going on, to the amount of bots that is rationalizing the death that's happened, the murder of the woman in Minnesota that has just recently happened by ICE, as well as just different conversations that I'm like, this doesn't make sense.
Yeah. It legitimately frightens me. It has for a long time, but now I'm seeing something has increased.
Yeah.
But
anyway.
Yeah, I mean, that's horrible. Maybe I will continue this series because that's related to another issue, another term. But I do, just again, before we move on from The Mandalorian, I want to be 100% clear.
That was your projection.
That was me projecting. There is no...
We already know Pedro Pascal is down.
I'm not putting anything out there about what they said or did. Or maybe, I don't know, maybe they did and I don't know about it. But I don't personally know about any of that.
Yes.
That was totally me projecting.
Yes.
Okay.
Noted.
All right, thank you. So... if you are struggling with internalized homophobia or transphobia or whatever it may be, there are a lot of resources out there for you. Here is some basic advice from the Trevor Project. Acknowledge and understand it and how it impacts you, and ask questions about it, like where did it come from, what makes you feel it, what brings it up. Find community and support engage with healthy/positive queer content, challenge negative beliefs if you experience them, accept your queerness on your own terms and know that those terms can change. So sometimes that can mean you're not ready to come out, and it might be later or maybe never. But just figure that out for yourself and realize that it can change. And your sexuality can change. And also don't assume someone's sexuality, because you never know. You never know.
It's not your business.
Yeah. If you're straight and you know someone struggling with this, here are some tips from Healthline. Assure them that through your words and actions that you accept people of all gender and sexual identities, speak out against anti-gay sentiments and legislation, believe what they tell you about their lived experience, create space for the LGBTQIA+ people in your life, and continue to educate yourself about people who are different from you. And obviously all of this is intersectional as well. We talked about that CompEd too, because in different cultures, this can have other complications you have to consider, or I mean, even your family, honestly, like it can be very specific. So these are some basic tips, but if you need more, there are plenty of resources out there. Again, I think most of you listeners probably know about this, but I have seen a lot of conversations about it online lately, and I'm like, maybe we should let's
go ahead.
Yeah, let's go ahead. But listeners, if you have any resources or any topics related to this that you would like to hear more about, please let us know. You can email us at hello@stuffmonevertoldyou.com. You can find us on Blue Sky at Most Stuff Podcast, or on Instagram and TikTok at Stuff Mom Never Told You. We're also on YouTube. We have some merchandise at Cotton Bureau, and we have a book you can get wherever you get your books. Thanks as always to our super producer Christina, our executive producer Maya, and our contributor Joey.
Thank you.
And thanks to you for listening. Stuff Mom Never Told You is produced by iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, you can check out the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcast, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.